So I don't think my wife knows what my presentation is on. She just sent me a text. It's funny that it goes along with my presentation. She just sent me a text and says, "I need you to come home as soon as you can." So just so you know, I dug out my basement in my house. I live in a brick bungalow. It's not too far from campus. I dug out the basement. I finished it all myself. Spent way too much time and money on this. Anyway, my wife just texted me. We have 1 inch of water in the basement. And I rent out my basement. So it's not just my wife and kids at home. It's like I got renters. Anyway, construction risk, building risk. 1 inch of water in the basement. And I just said, well, I'm about to do my presentation, but she's like, get home this week. Anyway, fun stuff. So construction risk, as we've been in the project, maybe I'm an egomaniac. I think it's very important, and it's more important than I think it is. I've been surprised at the lack of discussion we have towards construction risk. Ron Swanson from NBC's Parks and Recreation, I think he thinks it's pretty important as well. Let's say yes, yes, let's go. Here we go.
Leslie wanted to hire a contractor to build a stage. I don't want to paint with a broad brush here, but every single contractor in the world is a miserable, incompetent thief.
So, since I am a miserable, incompetent thief, and all my cohorts are too, I thought this would be a good thing to talk about. I'm just joking about that. However, really quick, I've been in some classes, and we've had an associate of ours talk about contractors trying to take advantage, even inappropriately, of owners. And I'm like, what? You know, like, it's kind of embarrassing to hear what some other contractors do. My point is not that, hey, they don't exist, because they do. But in all of this, we're going to talk about types of contracts, delivery methods, those kinds of things. But no matter what kind of contract you set up, you're not going to be able to get rid of deceit, get rid of fraud. The best contract can't protect you from bad people, is what I'm getting at. So when you do business and you do business with contractors, keep in mind that you need to have some level of trust with those individuals. So today I want to talk about contracts and these things. Hopefully, if we have time, talk just a little bit about interest rates. The types of contracts out there are stipulated sum, which is also known as a lump sum. Some different names there: stip sum, fixed contract. Right here, if you're asking, what is this AIA? That is what's the long form of AIA? What is that?
American Institute of Architects.
So the American Institute of Architects have come up with some form contracts that you can then fill out, and that's what these are. We use them often, not all the time, but often. So there's stip sum, there's cost plus, and percentage or a fee, a flat fee. And anyway.
Okay, but under a stipulated sum.
Yes.
So in that case, if you're the developer and you go to your contractor, you give him all of your plans and specs and everything. He gives you a bid, and he just he doesn't eyeball it. He goes through it, but he kind of figures, here's what I can build it for. And if I come in with and can build it for less, I get everything I saved. And if I build it for more, I have to cover that. So effectively, you as a developer guarantee an actual fixed number, which gives you some comfort, right? Okay.
So here, he can either make money if it comes in less, or it can come in more. Now, and we'll get into this, the drawback to you as the developer is you go, what if it came in less? You mean I paid more than I should have? And so that's where you go, well, let me go a cost plus, and I can know exactly what the costs are. And yeah, you can make a small fee on that or a flat fee. That I'm fine with that. But I know that it didn't come in less than what you said. The GMP, or guaranteed maximum price, is you're saying, Mr. Contractor, let's say the project's $7 million. He says, I can build your project for $7 million. Well, if it comes in at 8, you don't have to pay that 8. You're locked in at that 7, and you're not sweet. And we'll talk about shared savings and different things here. So a lump sum, just like Flynn said, you have to have all of your project documents, all your drawings complete, or very close to complete, because if they're not, the contractor can then say, look, I did a lump sum based upon these drawings, but I didn't know about X, Y, Z because they weren't on the drawings. I need to change order. So it's a good thing and a bad thing, because it takes a little bit more time to get your complete documents, but it's a good thing because then you have complete documents. There's not a lot of guesswork. One of the things about lump sum is you don't have to be savvy. This is the typical contract. Most people get it. And because it's not open book, you can't just go audit the contractor's books, where his cost came in at. The contractor doesn't have to hire additional accounting help or an additional accountant to manage your specific project. So his general conditions, his costs are lower because of that. One thing, some developers say, all right, we're going to do a lump sum contract, but I still want open book privileges. I still want to go and audit the books. If push comes to shove and you go to court, the court will say, hey, great, it's lump sum. So let's say the contractor says, your concrete's going to cost $30,000. You go to court and you have open book and you find out it only cost them $25,000. You go, what gives, dude? You took $5,000 in cream and profit. Like, that's not cool. But because it's lump sum, they're going to say, well, you learn that you got screwed. So what? Because it's still lump sum. So anyway, just keep that in mind. Hey, if you want to write your contracts to be that way, that's great. However, you might not like what you find. However, on the flip side, you might like what you find. Concrete cost might have come in at $35,000, and you go, oh, I didn't know the contractor got hosed on that particular scope. I lump these two together, the percentage and the fee, because they're pretty much the same. Again, it's open book, so you can sleep better at night knowing that the costs were what the contractor said they were. Also, a benefit here is you don't have to worry about the contractor having his number. With the lump sum, he's locked into that number. If it's a complex project, he might say, well, I don't know what the soils are going to be exactly here when we dig these footings, and because it's so sketchy, I just don't know. I'm going to throw an extra 10 grand or an extra 20 grand in here for that contingency. Now, because it's just a cost, he doesn't care where the costs come in. They come in wherever they come in, and he makes a profit off of that. He doesn't have to pad his number. So with some complex projects, this might be a good thing. I know some custom home builders like to go this way, because these people that are building their dream home, they might change 1,000 things throughout the project. He doesn't care. Whatever the cost is, just mark it up. Matt, did you want to say something, or you?
Sure, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to throw my 2 cents here. One thing about this situation too, and the way you structure your contract, assuming you've hired an architect, which I don't know how you get a building permit without one. Some contracts are structured where it's kind of a turnkey situation where you'll hire Leighton Construction or whomever and say, I just need a warehouse and get me built it, and it's for a fixed fee. And then they'll go out and hire an architect to do that. I don't like that situation because it puts us in a kind of a subservient role to the general contractor, and we're not necessarily working in the owner's interest. And so most things, and a cost fee is a good situation where you'll contract directly with the architect, and they'll act as kind of your agent to oversee the construction project, to make sure that the design intent of the drawings is being fulfilled. they will review, well, they'll answer questions in the form of thing. They'll review change orders. They'll review, they'll ask for the contractor to provide what's called a schedule of values that says these items cost this much per this much. So when change orders come in, you can kind of quickly audit that thing. So I guess I would just kind of make an argument for paying for construction administration for the contractor. I've been put in, I've been in situations where during the negotiation, they're like, we got to get that design fee down, and they trim out my time to do construction administration. So we're kind of like, all right, and you're kicking the can down the road. You're pushing a lot of design decisions down onto the contractor in this situation. And it maybe in some things like a tilt-up warehouse and the contractor's built hundreds, that might not be a bad situation. But in something like a high-rise apartment, not recommended at all. And then, because there's a certain volume of risk in any project, and you got to address it in one way or another. And the later in the timeline you go, the more expensive and it gets. That's just kind of.
No, and Matt's getting to something that we'll be discussing here, and I want to make this clear. There is the contract, the way you contract with your contractor, but then there's also the delivery method, which you can separate the two.
Right.
And what Matt's talking about is the difference between design, bid, build, and design, build, and we'll get into that and how that changes the architect's relationship with the general contractor and with you as the developer, which is critical.
Right.
You got 10 minutes in the water and your basement's getting deeper.
I know. So, I don't think we need to talk about too much here. Contracts, GMP, again, this is, your drawings aren't complete, but everybody, including the general contractor, understands where you're going. There's some blanks to be filled in, but this way you can get under contract, get your financing.
Incidentally, to kind of go into what Matt was talking about, what kind of you're getting into as well, banks don't really like to finance projects where the projects are not fully drawn out. You don't have a full set of plans and specs, because we like to take the plans and specs, full set of plans and specs, and a general contract, and provide those to a third party who does a cost and constructability review, and he says, yes, you've got enough money in your loan budget to fund this project the way it's designed, and a general contract and your hard costs match, and so everything is pretty much copacetic. You can go ahead and fund. So we like to have all that done before we fund a dollar. And if it doesn't all come in and match, then we got to go back to our client and say, you got to renegotiate your contract, or we got to lower our loan amount, and kind of everything kind of falls apart. We got to put it all back together again, review the numbers, and go back in and get another loan approval, and it takes more time, and it's kind of all cascades from there. So what he's talking about is very relevant.
Yeah. This GMP process, a lot of people confuse with lump sum. I meet with owners all the time who they speak this. They say lump sum and they're meaning GMP, or they say lump sum and vice versa. It's just if you can just understand the difference, you'll be heads and shoulders above a lot of owners out there. This is more complex. Again, it is open book. One of the big things I would tell you is be aware of clarifications and exclusions. Again, the general contractor is filling in the blanks. And so he may say, hey, I'm excluding this because I don't know enough about this. Let's say you have a project up in Park City, and he says, I'm excluding snow melt. What do you mean you're excluding snow melt? This is Park City. I'm going to have tons of snow. Well, I don't know the size of the boiler, and that needs to be engineered, and so I can't price it out. I just don't know. So if you don't read those and you don't understand those, and that's a simple example, you can be on the hook for a lot of money if you don't understand this. Shared savings. So again, you have a ceiling, and price and costs come in below that, if you say, hey, I'm gonna take all the savings, let's say my project, he said it's 7 million GMP, and it comes in at 6 million. Well, if you say, I got that million, that's all mine, all of a sudden you take any incentive away from the general contractor to share in those savings. So let's say the project takes 3 years to build, and it's year 2.5, and he says, I don't have another project for my guys to go to, so I'm just going to stick here and milk as much as I can, milk time. I could end next month, but I'll drag it out for 4 or 5 months to pay for my guys to a home for them to be at, a project for them to manage. But if you have the shared savings, he goes, sweet, I can have a portion of this $1 million. So you're lining up their incentives with yours. So here's the delivery methods. I'll keep this short and sweet. Design, bid, build. This is the typical way you go and you talk to your architect. He produces drawings. You then bid it out. You pick your general contractor and move on. That's the typical way. Design, build is where you go to your general contractor first before you go to an architect. Say, I want you to build my project. He says, okay, great. I need an architect, so let me go and I'm going to hire Matt. Now, Matt's my subcontractor. If Matt forgets a detail, I can't go to the owner and say, your architect missed a detail, I need a change order. Because the owner says, no, he's your architect. He missed the detail, you have to pay for it. So one of the drawbacks is that general contractor, you might put a bigger fee to cover that risk, because you're like, can I make sure Matt or his engineer, his electrical, mechanical engineer, pick up everything? So there's more risk on the general contractor, which is a good and bad thing. One thing to recognize is it all comes back to the owner at some point. So if you push too hard on your general contractor and he goes out of business, whose risk is it now? You know, let's say it's a GMP, costs come in at 8 million instead of 7 million, and he goes bankrupt. Now you've got a project that's half done and a contractor that's out of business. You got to go hire someone else. So just remember, you can't push too hard. You push, but don't push too hard. All risk is yours eventually.
There's a third that I see quite often, and it's design assist. And that is the owner will go out and say, I'm hiring you as the architect, and I'm not going to bid this out to a bunch of contractors. I know I like Kyle. Kyle, you're the general contractor. Start designing it. As Matt, you start feeding Kyle drawings when they're ready, and Kyle's going to start pricing it. And we're going to do what we call value engineering. And that's kind of like saying, well, there's a cheaper way here, or like, for example, I remember once I was on a job where we were doing it started out doing a wood frame, concrete podium, wood frame building, and the contractor's like, I can't get skilled labor that can stick frame it. Let's look at doing it in steel. We can get the steel cheaper. We'll save on labor just doing it in steel, and things like that. And that's probably the most prudent way to do it, especially when you want to get, if you have a good relationship with a contractor and an architect.
That's design assist.
Design assist.
Design assist is a lot. Oh, go ahead.
The owner picks his own GC, picks his own architect, and says you guys work together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot like CM at risk. So CM is construction manager. In this type, the CM is your general contractor. So typically you do say, hey, Leighton, I really like to use you guys. I'm not under contract yet. And either I can pay for your services in pre-construction, in the design phase, or you guys just throw it in free because now you don't have to bid against everybody else. It's negotiated work. You know you have a project. You don't have to bid it out. It takes money to bid a project. And so now you don't have to worry about spending that money to bid a project and not get it. So you're like, sweet, I got this project. Yeah, I can just get it out for free. So that's kind of, CM at risk is a lot like a design assist. CM not at risk, this is where you would hire a consultant, a third party outside of the architect and GC to help you manage the process, because there are intricacies.
And that's usually called an orange wrap.
Yes,
right?
correct, exactly right. And it's great work if you can get it.
Yeah, it's sweet if you're the cut CM guy.
It's great for the developer if you're a novice, if you don't understand it, if you have a lot of complexity, again with contracts and this delivery methods. Maybe you do design build and you're like, all right, the architect is working for the general contractor, so the architect isn't necessarily watching out for my best interest. Do I want to get a consultant to be on my side, an owner's rep, who knows more about construction than I do? Maybe. Design build, let's see here. You do have competition on price, which is great. The race to bottom, and we'll talk about this here in just a second. You might have less qualified general contractors or subs win the project, but they're not the most qualified to run your project, especially not a complex project. Design build, again, we talked about this. CM at risk, again. They can be paid or unpaid, and this may be helpful if on some projects you may have some long lead items, either fancy finishes that you got to import from Italy, or you have mechanical equipment that takes 16 weeks to procure, and your project only lasts 6 weeks or 8 weeks. You got to order that 8 weeks before your project even starts. So maybe the architect is designing something and you say, hey, Mr. Contractor, order this stuff now. Let's see here. What Matt was talking about earlier, sometimes you can get the same construction management services, the consulting services, for free, where the general contractor gives scheduling, constructability insights at the very beginning, cost estimates during design development, and then you ask the architect during construction to help manage the contractor. Hey, does that change order seem right? Well, let me send it to my electrical engineer to see if that cost is right.
To be fair, if you're using an AIA contract, architects have to do the CA on their jobs. They should not, even though I've seen it done, I've been part of it actually, sign contracts where they design their drawings and then just throw it to the contractor and say, I hope you build it the way we want. They should be, I don't know if the word's fiduciary, but it's our responsibility to make sure that that's built to the specs of our drawings. So if you want to use a non-AIA contract or a non-conventional one, there's architects, I probably would do it too for the right price and the right contracts that kind of indemnify me from that responsibility. But that's super risky. That's penny wise and dollar foolish.
I talked about this briefly. Just be aware of value. Just because the guy is the low bidder on your project doesn't mean he's the right guy for your project. For instance, you have two general contractors, and one guy comes in, he's more expensive, but he says, I can get your project done in 6 weeks. And the other guy comes in and says, well, I can get your project done in 12. And you're like, well, why do I want to use you? You're more expensive. But he gets it done faster, so now you're paying less construction interest on your construction loan. You're up and running, you're operating sooner. So there's different things to consider more than just cost. Be wary of too much competition. I've been to a few job walkthroughs where the developer or owner had 20 general contractors there. And so not only as a general contractor, you go, well, why waste my time? If everything's all equal, I have a 5% chance of winning this project. In addition, you as the owner, so I might drop out and say, I'm out of here. Why do I want to waste my time with this? You as the owner, who's going to miss the most? If a general contractor forgets the concrete, or I've had this happen where the detail says typical. So typical could mean times 2, times 20, and someone sees it and they say, oh, one takeoff, that's $20,000. Well, 20,000 times 20 is a big difference. So all of a sudden, you're going with the guy who missed something, and you're contracting with that. Be aware of constraints on bidding. Some owners ask for the turnaround on their bids too fast. is a subcontractor, they get you need time for the subs to go look at your site and understand what's there. They need time to look at the drawings, ask questions, turn that into the general contractor, turns it into the architect, who responds, and it needs to get back to the subs. Then they send it out to their vendors and suppliers for prices, and then you turn that bid. So if you do that too fast, you're looking for trouble because they didn't have time to really investigate and find that pricing.
Yeah, and all those responses are addendums to the original bid documents and send out equally to everyone. So when I'm in the middle of a bid, I collect questions, but I don't let, if Kyle calls me and goes, hey Matt, I don't know what this detail means, I'll be like, duly noted. I look for an email, and then I have to send it out to everybody to make sure bids are, everyone has the same information to get the accurate bid in. I can't say, oh, here it is, and then Kyle gets some sort of inside cut on what's intended, and the next guy doesn't, even though we are friends, and I hope he would get the job.
But Matt's point is now, instead
But
of
it's a-
just
yeah.
20 contractors looking at your drawings and picking them apart and finding the errors and what needs to be happened, you have 100 contractors picking apart the drawings and getting answers to those questions that get incorporated into the contract. So again, it's helping you manage your risk. Don't bid out your project. I see this happen time and time again. The day before or the day after Memorial Day, or when half of the people are out of town, you know, you're just like, that's not smart. If you push too hard, too often, you will get a reputation. Or I've had an owner almost threaten during a job walk, there will be no change orders on my job. Absolutely none. Well, as contractors, you're like, well, I want to bid your work, but I'm not going to lose my business because I forgot something or something didn't happen. You know, there's risk. So I'm going to inflate my number 10, 15, 20%. So there's your number. So by him threatening no changes, did he just increase his base bid? Possibly. Maybe that's what he wants. That's for you to decide how you want to manage your job. We've had some owners say, well, is this your best and final number? And they ask it several times. Because they want to work with us, but maybe we're not the lowest bid. Well, eventually you go, dude, that's my number. But if it makes you feel better, I'll give you a higher number to start off with, and I'll come. You see what I'm saying? So you got to just realize these guys are in it to make money as well. And they need to make some money. You may want to interview your contractor and make sure that their personalities match you and that they understand your project as well as you do, if not better. And so you go, hey, these guys get it. Maybe they're not the low guys, but when I interviewed them, they totally understood my site, some of the safety concerns. They understood the dust and the noise factors from my other tenants, where the other guys didn't even mention it. You know? Anyway, so you can make sure you understand that. Keep it contingency. Right here, I had this happen. We had 4 general contractors bid on a complex project, and 3 of us came in at 4.5 million, and the other guy came in at 3.9. We told the owner before this happened, hey, this is a complex project. You probably don't want to bid this out. This is scary stuff. If somebody, you're going to pick the guy who missed something. And it was complex. It was in the news anyway. Yeah, I'll stop there.
This is going on YouTube, so don't be careful.
The owner, when they were talking to us, they understood that problem. And they said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to keep a contingency between the low guy and the second low guy. So the owner kept a $600,000 contingency because this guy did forget something. And so, but now we have the funds to cover that low. Anyway, that may be something you may want to consider. Review your own drawings. It's happened a handful of times where the owner that halfway through the project says, what? I told you I wanted this, or I wanted that. And either they were dreaming it up, but in any case, the drawings weren't what they were expecting. They were expecting something to be in there. And if you're expecting the architect to remember everything, or the contractor to catch everything in the design process, no one's going to look at your drawings like you should look at them. I'm just going to tell you the punchline here. Right now we have historical low interest rates. There's talk about housing coming back, and it very well could. The thing I want you guys to know, before I came into construction, I worked at Fidelity Investments. Before that, I was in business finance. So we talked about macroeconomics and interest rates. The thing that it's been discussed just a little bit in the classes I've taken here in the program, but I don't think it's been stressed enough. Since most of the projects that we do as our own developers, our own projects, it's going to take your life savings. It's going to take everything you got to do these projects. So your family's financial future is on the line. And I just don't think it's been discussed enough, some of the macroeconomic forces that we're facing. We all know we want to buy low and we want to sell high. And we all know from cap rates, the lower the cap rate, the higher the asset value, and vice versa. They're inversely related. So if rates are at all-time lows, what does that mean?
Values are all-time highs.
Exactly. So is now the time to buy?
Depends.
And it does depend. And we're going to get there here really quick. I've had some people say, but rates are so attractive. My mom and dad being some of them. But rates are so attractive. Agreed. But the prices are not. What's going to happen is right now with the low interest, with the low rate environment, the principal is the majority of your payment, the interest is so small, people get locked into this, but the interest rate is so small. What's going to happen when it flips? Interest rate is going to become a larger portion of your debt burden, but the principal is going to go down too. So then the question is, what is the upside? Is there any upside here when assets are at all-time high, or when assets are at all-time lows? That's the thing that you need to be thinking about. The other thing is, it's called leverage for a reason. And mathematically, I can show you, and there's a slide here, I won't go into it just for the sake of time. But when rates go from 2 to 4%, that does the exact same thing to your asset value as going from 7.5% to 15%. When you double your interest rate, when you go from 1 to 2%, it halves your asset value, and your asset value is halved again from 2 to 4%. So when you think, oh, what's the big deal of going up 1%? Well, right now, when rates are 1%, on the treasury, or 2%, it's huge. And that's the reason why this is so important. I mean, you go from 16% down to 7.5%, and you double right there. But you double when you went from 5% to 2.5% right there. You see my point? So right now, when we have such low interest rates, we can have huge swings in our asset values. This is just kind of proving the point here, and feel free to read this. You see, you go from 1,000 to 2,000.
Why you gotta be such a downer?
And all I'm saying, and Flint's point is exactly right, and I didn't do a good enough job of explaining it here, but the Federal Reserve is doing crazy measures they've never ever done before. But they're in control, right? They're doing oh my God, I'm losing my train of thought. The swap.
Swapping long-term for short-term.
Yeah, exactly.
Squeeze,
Twist, Operation Twist.
Yeah.
Guys, this is not normal. This is not business as usual. It's crazy stuff that's happening right now. Anyway, my point is they can continue to manipulate the markets for a long time. 20 years, is how long Japan has had a zero interest rate policy. And we're following the exact same model where we've had a downturn and then it's flat. For 20 years, Japan's been there. We're going down to zero interest rate policy, and we could be the same way for 20 years. Hopefully that's not the case, but my point is, 20 years, I'm 55, right? I'm gonna sit it out till I'm 55. No, I don't think we can afford to do that. But what my point is, just pay attention to some of this stuff, because you'll either have the wind at your backs or wind in your face, depending if you pay attention to this stuff or not. Anyway.
I would economically, I mean, sometimes mathematics are not impacted by race or social issues or politics, but my issue, I live in Japan and everything else, and I love the Japanese, I work for a Japanese bank, but I have a hard time sometimes when people compare the U.S. with Japan, just because we've got such a diverse economy here. Japan is so homogenous. There's just so many nuances in Japan that we don't have here. I don't know how that's going to all play out, and how, if we can kind of say, hey, we're going to go for 10 years and have, growth. I think there's a lot of things that can switch quickly here, and we could really be out to the races. And it is kind of surprising that cap rates are low, values are so high. It seems like now we've got a housing shortage, and a year and a half, 2 years ago, it felt like we were in a recession, and now unemployment's going down. I think consumer confidence is starting to go up. It just kind of shows you that things can change really quickly. Obviously, if you start bumping the rates, who knows what's going to happen then. Some people are telling me that the refi boom is over on housing. It may or may not be, but I just think it's a great time. I mean, it's a great time to be in real estate. Things are happening kind of quickly now. There's always projects that are successful. I mean, we did a lot of multifamily last year. We're kind of cooling off on multifamily, but I'm doing a lot of self-storage now with Extra Space and other clients. I've got clients that all they build is for the GSA, VA outpatient clinics, and projects that are leased by the Department of Homeland Security. They're doing great. So that's the beautiful thing about real estate is there's always a demand for it. You just got to kind of try to figure out what the right product types are at the right times. Multifamily seems to always do well. Historical vacancies are kind of like no more than 10%. So if you run your numbers at the right, you stretch your numbers to the right amount, so you can be okay. I just think it's a great industry.
Yeah.
So should I sell my house?
I would.
You can make money in bubbles, but if you're not aware that it's a bubble, then you're going to be the guy that's holding back to that.
Yeah, it's hard to time it. Just like Warren Buffett says, you can't time the market. But you can, when people are, everybody kind of knew in 07 we're getting to the height here. People knew that, and people just kind of thought it was never going to end.
They did studies. 1997, Greenspan said, we have irrational exuberance. People are investing in this dot-com bubble, and it's crazy. And he said so. And the market continued to chug along for 2 years before the bubble burst. He was trying to burst the bubble with his comments then, saying, this is crazy, stop it. And they kept on going. Well, so they did studies, and they said, well, what's going on? You had the foremost expert on the economy saying this is crazy, but yet people did it. And what they found was it wasn't irrational to be in the bubble. In fact, rational investors, people who knew that it was crazy, were investing in the bubble. And they found the same thing happened with the credit bubble, the MBS, the financial crisis. People were investing even though they knew it was crazy, because they knew, hey, I'm going to ride it up. I'm going to ride the bubble up. I know it's a bubble, but I'm going to ride it up. And now the issue is not, is it a bubble or not? It's when do I get out? It was an optimal timing. And so, again, going to what Flynn said, 2005, Steve Forbes came to Salt Lake and talked. And he says, guys, we've had, in this last year, our economy grew like 3%, something like that. He says, do you realize that our 3 or 4% growth, that percentage growth in our economy is the entire size of China. That 3 or 4% growth in our economy equals the entire economy of China. Whoa, that's huge. That's what he said back then. So my point is echoing what Flynn's saying. I'm not saying we're going to crash, but pay attention to interest rates and understand the impact that they have. Thanks.